Is anyone safe in college football anymore? I mean, is anybody safe at this point? If you look around at what's going on in college football right now, you look at the Darian Mensah situation with what's going on at Duke, and you're probably thinking to yourself, holy cow, yes, the transfer portal is closed. But what's going to stop teams from coming after our quarterback? What's going to stop teams from coming after our star running back? I mean, this is exactly the situation that Wisconsin found them, not exactly, but a very similar situation that Wisconsin found themselves in last year, where they thought we're going to hold on to Xavier Lucas because he can't go to the transfer portal, and then the transfer portal closes and he still leaves. Duke thinks we have Darian Mensah set up with a contract here, and we're going to hold on to Darian Mensah, but that's not going to happen, it looks like here. Now, obviously, we'll learn more as things are going on, but if you don't know what I'm talking about, news broke on Friday that, about midday, that it didn't look like Darian Mensah was going to stay with Duke, that he was going to enter into the transfer portal. And so you start putting a few things together. You say, okay, well, what teams out there need a quarterback? Oh, yeah, Miami. Miami is the group out there that needs a quarterback. And I think a lot of Big Ten fans right now, and people, especially Washington fans, are looking at the situation and saying, holy cow, thank goodness for the Big Ten and what they did with Damon Williams, because the Big Ten in Washington was able to hold on to Damon Williams. And maybe, some Washington fans don't want Damon Williams back. I get that. Look, I'm not blaming you, but this is a situation here where this is conference on conference play between Miami and Duke here. And Miami looks like they're going to be successful in essentially taking Darian Mensah from Duke and bringing him over there. Look, Darian Mensah, he is in the second year of a 2-year deal with Duke that pays him about $4 million annually. All right, that is a fantastic deal. Duke putting their money where their mouth is, and Darian Mensah is a fantastic quarterback. All right, he struggled against Illinois early on in the season, but that was also when Illinois was at full strength. They had their secondary was rocking and rolling. They had healthy guys, and Illinois, when they have a healthy secondary with Aaron Henry there as the defensive coordinator, it is pretty terrifying. Unfortunately for them, they lost Xavier Scott. Don't even get started on all that. But Darian Mensah, the moral of the story here is he is a very good quarterback, and he helped Duke, albeit with some weird, tiebreaker rules this year. He did help Duke win the ACC. And so Darian Mensah is obviously a popular quarterback. Like most rev share contracts that he has, Duke's deal prohibits another university from using Mensah's NIL, a legal entanglement that must be resolved if a team does want to take Darian Mensah away from Duke. And you might be able to guess who this team is at this point. It's Miami. Miami is the team that does not have a quarterback right now, and they want to go after somebody and essentially take their quarterback, which, it is the transfer portal. Guys can leave and guys can do stuff, but if you don't have the security of a contract, then a lot of, it really is just open market, open free agency every single year on every single team. The G5 has been dealing with this for a few years now, where essentially you just lose your best players each year to the better teams. But when this starts seeping into, a team that literally won the ACC, yes, I know they were not actually the best team in the ACC, but they literally just won the ACC. This could happen to a Big 12 team or something like that. This gets really, really scary for teams in the possibility of losing one of their best players, whether the transfer portal is open, whether it's not, whether you have a contract, whether you don't. And right now it looks like, according to some of the reporting by Ross Dellinger, that there is a buyout in place for Darian Mensah. And if Mensah's new school, i.e., Miami here, that would possibly have a value of about $4 million just to buy Mensah out of that contract. It will be reduced with the revenue share pool. That will reduce Miami's revenue share pool, but Miami doesn't care about the revenue share pool. Nobody cares about the revenue. Like none of this house settlement stuff matters right now, because the CSC has decided not to do anything. And all they are doing is setting themselves up for later on when the Big Ten and the SEC separate from everybody else. I did a video on that yesterday. You can go check that out when we talk more about that. But Miami, they have the money to pay the buyout. They have the money to pay top dollar NIL. I mean, look at this tweet here from Liam Blutman. Now, Liam Blutman is from Barstool, and he does get a lot of good information, and a lot of what he has put out there has proven to be true. So he said he's going to do some digging, and Miami's desperation move for Mensah apparently includes this. If you're not, if you're listening on podcast, I'll read it to you. A buyout for his Duke contract to terminate it, paying around $10 million total to make it happen, I assume to make the contract go away, to buy it out altogether. Country club housing, I assume that means for his family, an Adidas deal and a campaign, possibly something like that going on here. And then this is the big kicker right here. Sister supposedly gets a full ride NIL. She's a current soccer player at Oregon. Could she transfer to come over from Oregon to go to Miami and, essentially get some NIL as well here? I mean, all of this is a crazy situation of what's going on in college football, and shows that if a team is desperate enough and they have enough money, they can go after just about anything. And thankfully for, the Big Ten in this Damon Williams situation, we figured out that the Big Ten does actually have things in place to help these kind of situations. As soon as Damon Williams said that he was going into the transfer portal, we got news from Washington that they were going to fight this. They were not going to let this happen easily. Now, my LSU is not Miami. Okay. Do not get it twisted. These are not the two, the same two. And this was also a different time when LSU could say, okay, it's too much. It's too much. Let's just go with Sam Levitt. Let's just go with one of these other guys that were still available at the time. But the biggest difference here is the agreement for Damon Williams had a Big Ten template document used by all league members for built-in situations just like this. We don't hear anything about an ACC template, ACC involvement, or anything like that, especially in this situation, with this being essentially ACC on ACC crime, right? All right, it's not actually crime. I mean, it's not like they're breaking laws here, but they are breaking a contract, all right? So the word crime feels fitting. Nobody's going to prison, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it just kind of feels fitting at this point in time. The deal does prohibit a player, the Damon Williams deal prohibited a player from entering the portal once it was signed. It wasn't just like you can't go to another school. It wasn't just like, buy this out or whatever, and then you can go to that school. No, this completely prohibited Damon Williams from even entering into the portal, and Washington set the example for every single team, every single conference out there to say, this is how you make a contract that another team cannot break. Now, if this was Miami, would they have found a way to break it? Would they have made this, put this together? Maybe, but Darren Heitner, the guy, the same guy that helped Xavier Lucas get away from Wisconsin and go to Miami, he was the same lawyer that got involved in this situation with Damon Williams, and they weren't able to break it. They weren't able to get Damon Williams out of Washington to wherever he was going. We presume LSU, but wherever he was going. And in that situation, you think, okay, well, the Big Ten has these contracts set up in place better than other conferences do out there right now. And this is one of the reasons why, like, I understand people when they say, well, I'm not a conference fan. I don't root for my conference. I get that. Okay. But then you look at situations like this with the ACC, where the ACC doesn't care. And in fact, the ACC, they are begging for teams to stay in their conference so much that they are giving all of the playoff money to whatever team wins those games and makes it further in the playoff. Miami has kept all of the playoff money that has come to them because they don't have to worry about having to share it or anything like that. That's why it's important that you have a good conference in place, is because your conference is supposed to support one another. Your conference is supposed to make everybody stronger by having the conference be stronger. And yes, I get it. You don't want to be the SEC and, chant SEC in stadiums and all this stuff. I get that. But if you are actively working against one another, if you are actively working to hurt one another, to not build each other up, then all you're doing is you're setting yourself up with a bad conference around you. You're not going to play quality competition. And look at Miami. Miami had to get a win over Notre Dame to get them into the playoffs. They had to get by BYU to lose. And that's the only reason not the only reason. That's the only reason they have the opportunity to get into the national championship right now, is because they had to have all of these other factors happen with them. Ohio State, when they lost 2 games 2 years ago, they controlled their own destiny still. They lost to Oregon and they lost to Michigan. Although Michigan wasn't a very good team, Ohio State still hosted a home playoff game because that's how much respect people have for A, the brand of Ohio State. Yes, don't get me wrong, you create your own brand, but B, the respect for the conference of the Big Ten as well. And Indiana got that benefit of the doubt last year as well with their schedule not being maybe as strong as some other people would like. And so the big question here is, does this put you know does this put the Big Ten in a bad situation, right? Could this possibly happen to the Big Ten? And something that's not being talked about a whole lot nationally out there, but it is known by people in Michigan circles and stuff like that. Is you almost saw something like this happen, this transfer portal cycle already, where Michigan was going after Wisconsin linebacker Mason Posa, which if you played Wisconsin this year, freshman linebacker Mason Posa is a beast. He's going to be one of the best linebackers in the Big Ten next year, could be one of the best linebackers in the country. He's just that good. He's going to be a huge part for Wisconsin. But like I said, Michigan needs a linebacker right now. They need a linebacker bad. They need a good linebacker bad. And so they were trying to go after Mason Posa. Well, when they were going after Mason Posa, there was actually some legitimate interest from Posa to say, maybe I do want to go to Michigan. Maybe I do want to take this big pay raise that they're going to give me. He already got a pay raise, and he already signed some new contract language from Wisconsin, which made this far too difficult for this to happen. Now, we don't get a whole lot of this story because this isn't a quarterback, right? And this obviously did not escalate to the level of everything that is escalating right now with Darian Mensah. But the point is that there was something like this trying to happen, just days until the portal was ending with Mason Posa. But it wasn't able to happen because the Big Ten has their contract in place. They have things, working behind the scenes. They have all these things happening. So that way teams can't just go out and steal other players from their teams. Now, would this happen if this was Miami going after Damon Williams? Maybe. Who knows, right? But what we can be encouraged by here is that the Big Ten is setting themselves up in a good place where even if Miami does come after, or LSU or somebody does come after your quarterback, your linebacker, whatever it might be, with a very enticing deal, if they've signed a contract, that language, that wording is going to be in place by courtesy of the Big Ten to keep them on your team and not be able to go elsewhere. So, basically, that's how the whole Darian Mensah situation, impact it kind of touches the Big Ten situation. Obviously, we'll learn more as things continue to go on, but I just wanted to put that out there because I did think it was very interesting